Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Winda Supal. I'm the room director of W Kuala Lumpur. So, this report is aimed to provide an overview of the key and challenges faced by the COVID-19 pandemic in the Malaysia tourism and hospitality industry, lesson learned from its devastating effect on the industry, and to contemplate possible solution and strategy for post-pandemic recovery from global perspective. So let's understand a little bit about COVID-19. Well, the alarming spread of COVID-19 has halted the world, especially hitting the tourism and hospitality industry most severely. This will be precisely worrying because we should not overlook the fact that the current pandemic crisis has not only aggravated the tourism and hospitality industry downfall, but also reflect the lack of business resilience and vulnerability of the global hospitality industry players, including Malaysia. So, stated differently, the hospitality industry needs to adapt the new normal practice worldwide post-pandemic. A critical turn dubbed by numerous scholars that the new normal already recognized and exposed the tension and crisis inhabited by the pre-pandemic tourism practice related to the pro-equity and sustainability. It is expected that the post-pandemic tourism will emerge in a more just and equitable manner in terms of its operation and ultimately how it affects the people, the planet, the environment, and host community. There's a lot of effect has impacted the hospitality industry since it hit Malaysia. Yet, we will consider below a measure to the industry. First and foremost is the COVID-19 has negatively affected the financial, health, and mental well-being of citizens worldwide. Travel and tourism are known as the focal elements of world economic and the financial backbone. Without it, the world economy will suffer tremendously in terms of financial, social, and people mental haphazard aspect in the years ahead. It was highlighted by WTTC, the World Travel and Tourism Council, by 2020, that in a report released by United Nations World Tourism Organization, the international tourism has shown a 22% decline in the first quarter of 2020. And the estimated trend of decline by end of 2020 is expected to hit 60 to 80%. The industry has already experienced 67% less tourist mobility and about 80 billion US dollar loss from tourism export compared to quarter 1 of 2019. So the next slide, I'll be showing the international tourist arrivals for year 2019 against the 2020. So looking into the graphic that given, we can clearly see that the world around the world is been decline of 22%. And looking at the Asia and the Pacific, it's more worrying by negative 35%. Next slide, we are talking about the sectoral outlook impact for most affected countries under the moderate scenario based on percent. So we can see by in the slide, Malaysia, especially down to industry, to hospitality industry, over there it shows by 55% negative. Another impact that hit hospitality industry is unexpected travel restriction and border closure for more countries across the world have caused millions of livelihood and job loss. In the tourism and hospitality sector alone, there are 100 million jobs were already lost and putting more than 197 million more jobs at the risk, along with estimated loss of 5.5 trillion of travel and tourism GDP in the current year due to prolonged travel restriction and MCO imposed by the nation. In Malaysia, the MCO was imposed by the government started on 18 March last year and currently in RMCO stage until 31st December last year. These actions are taken to curb the spread of this disease. In addition, while the ban on international tourists remains effective as the COVID-19 cases around the world continue to rise, the tourism and hospitality sector in Malaysia has already experienced losses of approximately 3.37 billion within the first 2 months of MCO. Hotels are struggling to survive to the extent that 35% of the hotel had to cease the operation temporarily. Malaysia Association of Hotel, or OUMH, has estimated that there will be 60% loss of tourism businesses and 15% of the hotel operator will be not able to survive and will completely close the operation by end of 2020. But looking at now, on my next slide, as of 25th June this year, there are 120 hotels are shut down due to COVID-19. Next slide on the table is based on the survey conducted by MA and published on the Edge Malaysia Weekly on the 27 April 2020. We can see the occupancy comparison from the first half of 2020 against 2019, losses due to MCO. So it's going down and going down and going down every month and still going down until this year. So the point number 3 of the impact or effect due to COVID-19 is restrained the Visit Malaysia of 2020. 2020 is supposed to be a Malaysia Day. We call it Visit Malaysia. But then 64% of Malaysia tourists who came from China, Singapore and Indonesia which are also badly impacted by the pandemic and led to decline and cancellation of substantial number of trips to Malaysia. The Ministry of Tourism, Art and Culture Malaysia estimated losses incurred by the country mainstream hospitality industry like transportation, accommodation, restaurant sector and event businesses from January to March 2020 as of 9 billion ringgit. That is the 3 impact I can call a major affected by COVID-19. Despite the impact caused by COVID-19, we must not to follow the trend and be quite glad to have some below solution that I have listed. So we have 2 solutions that I have listed, which I call the short term and a long term. For the short term, the Ma Hotel has come up with some proposal and solution which they have asked the Malaysian central government and in use now, as we call it utility cost for water and electricity. The Ma have asked the government for 50% discount on all water bill immediately up till the end of December 2020. But then still gladly is still using until now, but the reduction of percentage of the discount. Even so, they have decreased the percentage of the discount. It's still helping a little bit and hoping for better soon. The other solution that in my list of short term is a temporary reduction of employment contribution of APF. A temporary reduction in employee contribution toward EPF will help the employers, the company, as they are facing cash flow constraint due to the current coronavirus situation. The hotel have asked for minimum reduction, and it's happening, as it mentioned, by 11 to 9%. So you can choose either by 11, remain to 11, or back to 9%. Next, short term that we have now is subsidy for payroll to secure the job for all permanent employee in the hotel industry. I mean, anyone in the hospitality industry. The industry has requested the government for subsidy, or in Malay they call it PSU, and it's still happening now as lower by 600 ringgit per month, which even is not in the original salary, but a staff, I mean the employee, still can have a minimum salary. So that's about the short term, the 3 point for the short term. Next one, we go to the long term situation, solution. So the first one is to setting up of a special public and private partnership of tourism marketing fund. The Malaysia tourism industry dedicated PPP marketing fund wherein both private sector, stakeholder as well as the government can work on marketing and promotional campaign for both domestic as well as alternate international market. This will have in recovery campaign for both mid-term and long-term initiative. So we are looking forward for this. It is not implemented yet since we are still in pelan pemulihan right now. Next one is reconsidering tourism management and tourism economy. The Malaysia tourism and hospitality industry will be greatly benefit if government consider public-private partnership for tourism management, especially for promotion and marketing activities. All the industry players, as well as academic in the tourism industry, studies in Malaysia, agree that there is an oversupply of legitimate room in Malaysian market. So after this pandemic, this oversupply may cause even more problem for the industry. So this oversupply does not include non-legitimate players like Airbnb, who do not paying anything to the government as taxes. So, along with this, the Malaysian home sharing industry, which operate freely and benefit from high income from renting the home to the tourists, also contribute to the oversupply. And last but not least, the long-term solutions is to use hotel as a quarantine center. The Malaysian government has imposed a compulsory quarantine period of 14 days for all Malaysians coming into the country since the 3rd April of last year. This has been done so that any coronavirus case which enter Malaysia stay quarantine and prevent further spread from inbound cases. For the same, there was a need for properly equipped quarantine center, which were better than putting people in home quarantine. The MOTEC approached the Malaysian Association of Hotel for searching all hotels in the country entry point. A total of 10,000 rooms were committed to the government at 150 per night, which included 3 meals for quarantine guests. The revenue earned for hotel from this initiative may not be sustainable in long run, but at least it is still better than getting no revenue at all. So in conclusion, this report provides a brief snapshot of miserable impact of COVID-19 pandemic on the travel and tourism industry, followed by examining the negative effect of MCO imposed by the government of Malaysia on the tourism GDP and employability to impede the spread of the mentioned outbreak. Besides, the report also shed light on highlighting the pre-existing vulnerability, challenges, and lessons that can be learned from this unprecedented situation for the future transformation of the industry. Finally, from the current literature, some selected resilience strategy for post-pandemic recovery are discussed. So I hope the report that I bring up today have highlighted some of it and can be used for all of us. Thank you very much for your time, and please look for me if anything. Thank you very much.